Welcome to Psychology of Humans. Today we're exploring the life and ideas of Karen Horney, the pioneering psychoanalyst who challenged Freud, reshaped the understanding of neurosis, and helped build the foundation of modern, humanistic, and feminist psychology. Horney wasn't just a theorist, she was a revolutionary voice inside a field dominated by men, challenging psychological assumptions that pathologized women and reduced human motivation to sex and aggression. Her ideas changed the direction of psychology forever. Let's begin. Born into submission and refusing it, Karen Horney was born in 1885 in Germany, in a strict religious household ruled by a domineering father. From the very start, she felt the tension between how society expected women to behave and the intellect, ambition, and imagination she knew lived inside her. She pursued medical school at a time when women were openly questioned in universities. She studied psychoanalysis directly under the shadow of Freud's influence, and at first, she accepted many of his theories. But as she began working with real patients, especially women, she saw a problem. Freud's model didn't match reality. Women weren't suffering because they lacked a penis or felt biologically inferior. They were suffering because of culture, power dynamics, upbringing, social expectations, and relationships. What we now call gender psychology and feminist theory begins here, with Karen Horney. The real root of anxiety? Horney believed neurosis begins with what she called basic anxiety, the deep sense of being helpless, insecure, or unloved in childhood. When a child grows up in a world where they don't feel emotionally safe, they adopt strategies to survive. She identified 3 core coping patterns, which continue into adulthood. 1. Moving toward people, seeking approval, affection, and reassurance to soothe fear. 2. Moving against people, using power, dominance, or aggression to avoid vulnerability. 3. Moving away from people, withdrawing into isolation, self-sufficiency, and detachment. These strategies work temporarily, but over time they become rigid. Automatic behaviors that shape personality, relationships, and identity. You don't choose them consciously. You build them to protect the wounded parts of yourself. And then they become your prison. Self-idealization versus self-realization. Horney believed many people live in conflict between 2 internal forces. The real self, who we truly are. The idealized self, who we think we should be. When someone experiences basic anxiety, the idealized self becomes extreme, demanding, and unreal. You tell yourself, I should be stronger. I should be loved by everyone. I should never fail. The problem is, the gap between your real self and this perfect fantasy grows, and that gap becomes suffering. Horney said healing begins when we stop chasing an idealized fantasy and start accepting our authentic self with honesty, compassion, and courage. A radical critique of Freud. Horney openly challenged Freud's views on women, especially his concept of penis envy. She argued the true source of envy was never biology, it was power. Women didn't envy male anatomy. They envied the cultural privilege that came with being male. Control, autonomy, opportunity. She flipped the idea entirely. If anything, men experience womb envy, envy of women's ability to create life and form deep emotional connections. Her point wasn't to reverse the hierarchy, it was to show that psychological suffering comes from cultural conditions, not just unconscious sexual desires. Neurosis, as a strategy, not a disease. One of Horney's most important insights was that neurosis isn't a sign of weakness, it's a strategy. It's a creative attempt to make the world feel safe when it never was. People don't act irrationally because they're broken. They act intelligently, based on their early environment. In that sense, neurosis is evidence of adaptation, not failure. But the strategies that protected you as a child become self-destructive as an adult. The work of therapy is helping people develop freedom beyond their old survival patterns. The courage to be real. Horney believed that to heal psychologically, you must rediscover the real self that existed before anxiety forced adaptation. This means self-honesty over perfection, growth over approval, relationships over dominance, authenticity over coping strategies. She helped shift psychology toward the modern idea of self-actualization, influencing thinkers like Abraham, Maslow, Carl Rogers, and the entire humanistic movement. Her legacy is in every modern therapy that focuses on empathy, relationship, and personal growth, instead of pathology. Why Karen Horney matters. Karen Horney stands as one of the great turning points in psychology. She changed the direction of psychoanalysis, elevated the importance of culture and relationships, and gave millions of women a voice and a discipline that had defined them without listening to them. Her message is profound. The world shapes the self, but the self can reshape the world, not through domination, not through perfection, but through the courage to be authentic in the face of anxiety. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.